Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Subscribe today on Apple Podcasts, Patreon, or by searching The Murder Diaries ad-free on Spotify. For $2.99 a month, you get to listen ad-free, and we added a special series called Journal Entries, where you can get to know me and Natalie a little bit better. Every subscription helps our podcast continue to work with families, victims, and keeps the Murder Diaries content coming. Once we get 500 subscribers, we'll be moving from 2 episodes a month of the Journal Entries series to 4. So get excited and subscribe today. Welcome to the Murder Diaries. I'm Paige.
And I'm Natalie.
In early November 2021, 40-year-old Sheena Gibbs seemed to vanish into thin air. The bright, bubbly Sheena was traveling back and forth between Chicago and her hometown in Iowa to help take care of her mother. She was set to return back to Iowa when she stopped answering phone calls and messages from friends and family. With few leads, lost surveillance footage, a mysterious boyfriend, and dead-end phone pings, Sheena remains missing. This is her story.
Used to think it's in my head, but I'm walking with the dead.
Sheena Louise Gibbs was born November 16, 1981, in the small town of Muscatine, Iowa. Not much information has been publicly released about Sheena's childhood, but one of her longtime friends, Lolita, easily recalled how much fun they had once they met in middle school. Lolita moved to the area before 7th grade, where she met Sheena, who was a grade below her. Both girls were 11 years old and quickly became inseparable. Lolita said that they spent their time skipping rocks on the Mississippi River or hanging out at the library searching for the perfect book to read. While Lolita admitted that she and Sheena had also caused their share of trouble, the 2 girls were always having fun. Sheena loved to dance and was especially fond of African dancers. Lolita's description of her friend was simple, but it fully encompassed her. Quote, just extraordinary. After graduating from high school, Sheena moved about 3 hours away to Chicago, Illinois to attend college at Northwestern. It was here that she met Bethany, who would end up being one of her closest friends. Bethany told ID Discovery's Disappeared that she met Sheena in the early 2000s when the two were in a psychology class together. She described Sheena as a beautiful, tall woman who carried this energy and was wearing a bright yellow shirt that said, "I am Black History." The 2 girls quickly became friends and started a psychology group with other friends. Another friend named Sarah told Disappeared that the group studied together and hung out at a pub or nearby beach, sometimes even spending the night playing board games. Sheena had a great passion for African culture that she loved to connect with others on. She wanted her future to be focused on giving back to the earth and finding a way to serve others, especially people who were suffering. This led her to decide on studying anthropology and social sciences in college. In a short biography written after her disappearance, those close to Sheena described her as kind, joyful, strong-willed, positive, creative, and someone who could easily connect with people from all walks of life. As I mentioned before, Sheena found another passion in dance. She was a professional dancer and especially loved West African, Jamaican, and hip-hop dance. Always looking to help others, Sheena taught kids about dance in different cultures, making sure that the students understood what made each one of the cultures so beautiful. In Sheena's biography, loved ones elaborated more on how much Sheena loved helping the community. Quote, Sheena is passionate about social justice and spent years volunteering as an HIV/AIDS educator, ESL teacher, peace activist, and raising money to bring clean water to drought-stricken areas of Africa. She worked with organizations like the AIDS Foundation of Chicago, 1000 Wells Project, American Friends Service Committee, and the Chicagoland Bicycle Federation. In 2007, at the age of 25, Sheena, her friends, and family were stunned when she was diagnosed with cervical cancer. Despite the devastating diagnosis, Sheena was determined to fight. She went through a long battle, receiving chemotherapy, radiation, many times on her own while living in Chicago. At the age of 26, she had a full hysterectomy, and after a few years, she went into remission. Though Sheena was incredibly strong, the fight against cancer took a toll on her. Her friend Bethany felt that Sheena was struggling with the fact that she wouldn't be able to carry her own children in the future. It was a slow, uphill battle for Sheena to regain her mental and physical strength. Some of her friends saw a change in her after she went into remission, but this wasn't unexpected. After all, consider everything she'd been through. She became a very outspoken advocate for those who had survived cancer, particularly those that were young, like her. She even wrote a poem that was featured by the Lurie Cancer Center of Northwestern University. This poem was set to support youth survivors as part of their Cancer Survivorship Institute. The poem was titled, "For My Friends and Family." It reads as follows. Out of many, I was one. One bad cell became one small tumor, became one big problem. Looking around for the answer, 25 diagnosed with cancer. Doctors, nurses, test results. Results, tears, console, consults. Because of you, I am stronger. Because of you, I will live longer. Of my friends that cried in their beds, for the nurse with extra pillows for my bed, for the sun that rose, set, and promised tomorrow, for the rain that washed away my sorrow. Insurance first, treatment second, feelings last. Looking towards my future, cheers to the past. The G in gravity holds me down. No care, you're the bus that gets me around. For the atheists that love me when I sound like a Christian. For the ones that missed me, I missed you more. For the ones that love me, I love you, Mia more. When you held my hand when I couldn't talk. When you opened your ear for me to just talk. If I could buy you a gift, it would be too cheap. If I could tell you the words, but I can't speak. If I never told you this, I will say it again. Thank you eternally. I love all my friends. Sheena continued to live her life to the fullest. She had held several different jobs, including as a home health aide, a youth worker, and scheduling COVID tests. She considered herself an entrepreneur and loved fashion. On her Instagram page, @TimelineT, Sheena focused on fashion as well as pop culture, posting several Who Wore It Best posts, funny videos, and tons of fashion posts. She described herself on Instagram as a pop culture vulture, hip-hop connoisseur, truth seeker, lie detector, blessed human, media darling.
There have been hundreds, maybe even thousands of videos and pictures posted of Sheena following her 2021 disappearance. And they all show a young woman who had a bright smile and a positive attitude. In fact, I'm looking at them right now on Instagram as I record this, and the best way I can describe it is that she exudes an energy that just seems to draw you into her.
In February of 2021, Sheena's mother, who was still living in Iowa, fell sick. Rather than have her mother end up in a nursing home, Sheena decided to split her time between Iowa and Chicago. She spent the next few months traveling back and forth, doing her best to maintain her life in Chicago while making sure that her mother was cared for. During this time, some of Sheena's friends noticed a change in her behavior. She stopped returning phone calls and mostly spoke to friends over Facebook and through text messages. While no alarm bells were going off, it was definitely noticed that this was not typical of Sheena. After a few months of it becoming increasingly difficult to get in touch with Sheena, her friend Sarah sent her a text in October of 21 that read, "Sheena, are you okay? I'm really worried about you. I haven't heard from you. You're not returning my calls. Are you all right?" It was 2 to 3 days before Sheena responded with, "Oh, sorry, I've been busy. How are you doing?" Still concerned about her friend, Sarah tried to tell herself that Sheena was just busy, that they'd catch up soon, but something still felt off. She knew that Sheena was considering relocating back to Iowa permanently, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something else was going on. In the second week of November, Bethany received a message from someone she didn't know. They were asking if she'd spoken to Sheena recently. The person told her that Sheena was missing. Bethany's initial response was confusion. She copied the message and sent it to Sheena, hoping that Sheena would contact them and figure out what was going on. Sheena never responded. Not long after, Sheena's aunt called Bethany and told her it was true, that Sheena was missing. Bethany was in complete shock. She thought that it had to be a misunderstanding. She called, texted, and messaged Sheena, just waiting for her to respond so Bethany could tell Sheena's aunt that this was all just a misunderstanding and that she was fine. But Sheena never responded. Sheena's friend Sarah had a similar response. She initially thought that it had to be a mistake, but quickly recalled the distance that it seemed like Sheena had been putting between herself and her friends recently. She couldn't help but wonder if it had been a sign that something bad was going to happen.
Unfortunately, it seemed like not many people were aware of Sheena's exact movements leading up to her disappearance. This obviously made it difficult for investigators and her loved ones who wanted to locate her. But this is where things get tricky, because if that wasn't complicated enough, no one was entirely sure which state Sheena had disappeared from. Was it Illinois or Iowa? They had no clue.
We want to take a second to tell you about our friends over at Morbidology.
Morbidology is a weekly award-winning true crime podcast written and hosted by true crime author Emily G. Thompson. It delves into the intricacies of crime from a legal perspective and is victim-focused, just like us.
So we know you'll love it. Emily's episodes feature primary audio, including interviews and trial testimony. She covers cases from around the globe. You can find Morbidology wherever you're listening to this right now. So go check it out.
Happy listening.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Sheena's aunt told her niece's friend that Sheena, who usually traveled back and forth between her hometown and Chicago by bus, had taken the bus back to Chicago from Iowa on November 1st. She was supposed to take the bus back to Iowa on November 8th, but she never arrived back in Iowa on that day. Adding to all the confusion was that nobody was certain whether Sheena had even made it back to Chicago initially on November 1st. On November 8th, 2021, Sheena's aunt notified the Chicago Police Department that her niece hadn't showed up on the train and was missing. The police department back in Sheena's hometown were also notified since no one was certain when she went missing and which state she might be in. Sheena's family, although unsure, believed that she had made it back to Chicago on November 1st. There are also many sources that report Sheena's case was initially classified as a habitually missing case due to her being reported missing often. There hasn't been any further information released to the public regarding this classification, why Sheena would have received this classification, how many times she'd gone missing in the past, or really with that, any reports of Sheena being missing. Police had reportedly told the family that, quote, she's a 40-year-old female. We don't have any evidence of a crime having been committed or anything like that. Sheena's previously close friends racked their brains trying to make sense of her disappearance. They all noticed that she'd been distancing herself, which was strange, but they couldn't think of why she would just disappear. Her friend Sarah remembered hearing earlier that Sheena had a new boyfriend that she was living with. Sarah had never met him, and neither had Bethany or Lolita. In fact, it didn't seem like anyone close to Sheena had met her boyfriend or even knew his name. It wasn't like Sheena to keep something important like that from her loved ones. Sarah thought that perhaps Sheena didn't think her friends would approve of him. Bethany had heard the relationship was rocky and on again, off again. Sarah told ID Discoveries Disappeared that there was another change she'd noticed in Sheena several years prior. After Sheena had gone into remission from cancer, Sarah said she noticed that the caliber of men Sheena was dating wasn't so great. Prior to Sheena's diagnosis, the men she dated were reportedly always pretty nice guys. Sarah wondered if after Sheena's cancer diagnosis, she lost confidence in herself. Sarah also recalled a time where Sheena told her about getting into a fight with one of her boyfriends, and the boyfriend had thrown a mug during the fight. Sarah expressed her concern, which seemed to lead to Sheena deciding not to talk to Sarah about her dating life anymore. In June of 21, a few months before Sheena disappeared, Bethany saw her for what she didn't realize would be the last time. Sheena came to Bethany's house. She'd been in a fight with her boyfriend and was really upset. Bethany talked things out with her and tried to help calm her down. Eventually, Sheena left, presumably to go back to where she lived with her boyfriend. A few weeks later, Bethany texted Sheena and asked how everything was going. Sheena responded that everything was okay and she was grateful to Bethany for being there for her that night. Lolita said that she found it strange that Sheena never talked about her boyfriend and that it was even stranger that this mystery boyfriend never reached out to Sheena's friends or family after she'd gone missing. With 2 weeks passing and no sightings or word from Sheena, her friends and family were growing increasingly concerned, scared that she might be suffering or in danger. They were frustrated that there hadn't been any leads or developments and that police didn't seem to be any closer to finding Sheena. Some speculated that Sheena had been involved in a domestic violence situation, and thus she might have left by her own volition to get out of the dangerous situation. Her friends disagreed. Bethany said that Sheena wasn't the type to run from her problems, especially with her friends and her community nearby. Bethany told Disappeared that she believes Sheena was taken against her will. Lolita agreed, saying that Sheena was much more likely to face a problem head on and end up in bigger trouble than to run away. Sheena's aunt told WGN Radio that she also noticed something odd before her niece's disappearance. When Sheena was in Iowa just a few days before she went missing, she mentioned something about a job interview to her. She explained to the reporter why it struck her as odd. Quote, "I thought, why is she going for a job interview when you were thinking about coming here to take care of your mom? So the logic behind her wanting to come home to take care of her mom is because we really didn't want her mom to be in a nursing home. So it was an ideal situation. It just didn't make sense as to why Sheena would be going to a job interview in Chicago when she was planning to move back to Iowa permanently." Her cousin Chris told ABC7 Chicago that this was entirely out of Sheena's personality, saying, "Before her disappearance, she was in regular contact with family, and we have not heard anything from her since. So it's obviously very disturbing, and we are very, very concerned." When Sheena disappeared, she was living on the north side of Chicago near Rogers Park. Sheena's friends and family started putting up missing persons flyers in Rogers Park and the surrounding community. They had an email dedicated to tips about Sheena, as well as the phone number to talk to the detectives who were over Sheena's case. They began receiving emails and phone numbers from people who knew Sheena or thought they might have helpful information. In December of 21, they received a tip regarding Sheena and her being friends with an Uber driver who often gave her rides. They even met up for lunch a few times. Bethany got in touch with this Uber driver who was able to give them what seemed like the first lead in Sheena's disappearance. Sheena's friends and family were so excited. This might be the lead that finally brought Sheena back to them. The cab driver said he last saw Sheena a month earlier. He dropped her off at a local bed and breakfast called the Greenleaf House, located near the corner of West Greenleaf Avenue and North Sheridan Road in Rogers Park. He said that Sheena told him that she was leaving for Iowa soon. This confirmed that Sheena had made it back to Chicago initially and was planning on heading back to Iowa. Thus, it seemed to indicate that Sheena disappeared from Chicago. Now we know which state she disappeared from: Illinois. With the new lead in hand, Bethany contacted the Greenleaf House, who confirmed that Sheena had stayed at their house from November 1st through November 5th. They also officially confirmed that she'd checked out on November 5th, but were unsure where she went afterwards. The hotel manager also gave Bethany the information of some of the other occupants who had been staying at Greenleaf at the same time as Sheena, which, low-key, seems illegal, but we digress. Either way, they gave Bethany the information so that she could contact them to see if they had any information. One of the guests, a Nigerian man, specifically remembered Sheena because of her passion for African culture. Those who knew Sheena well knew that she would have connected with him. When Bethany spoke with him, he couldn't recall anything abnormal about Sheena. The next thing they asked the bed and breakfast was if they could have access to their camera footage. The hotel manager said that they had security cameras in common areas of the hotel, which would likely show Sheena, but that the police would have to request the footage in order for them to have access. Shortly after finding this out, in December of 21, Bethany contacted the Chicago Police Department to tell them what they discovered, hoping that they could request the camera footage as the bed and breakfast had requested. She informed them that the footage would automatically erase after 60 days. Unfortunately, by the time Chicago PD reached out to the Greenleaf House, the camera footage from the time Sheena was there had been erased. In a post on the Help Find Sheena Gibbs Facebook page, one of the administrators elaborated a bit more on the now missing footage. Quote, "It was officially kept on the cloud for 60 days by Amazon and then no longer accessible because it was not requested. Hope it's out there somewhere still. Police did not request the footage even though they received a critical tip about Sheena's last sighting about 21 days before that deadline."
Not only were Sheena's loved ones confused and rightfully devastated by her disappearance, they also felt as though the police department wasn't doing anything to find Sheena. Sarah even told Disappeared that Regarding the police not getting the Greenleaf house's security footage, there was a gross negligence in this case. And between you and me, I'd have to agree.
If you've heard about prescription GLP-1s, which truly who hasn't by now, you've probably heard that they're super effective or even seen someone's results. My own doctor and I had a quick conversation about them just because they're everywhere and I was curious about what's going on with them. And even she mentioned how effective they are. These things work. But here's the thing. It can be confusing how exactly one in need might get a GLP-1 prescription. They're also kind of expensive. This is where Ro comes in.
Ro gives you access to prescription compounded GLP-1s with the same weight loss ingredient as brand name GLP-1s at a fraction of the cost. Plus, they're in stock and you can get them in 1 to 4 days if you qualify. Ro members have support throughout the process, and if you're eligible for medication, patients have access to their provider on demand for any questions.
The coolest part is you can see if you qualify from your own home. There's no need to wait for an appointment or try and find your way around a new medical office.
Go to ro.co/murderdiaries. Memberships start at just $99 for your first month. Medication costs are separate. That's ro.co/murderdiaries.
Go to ro.co/safety for black box warning and full safety info. Compounded medication is not required to and does not receive FDA review or approval. Prescription only. Sheena's family and friends felt like they were at a standstill. They'd all gotten a burst of hope and excitement when they found out about the surveillance footage, but their hopes were quickly dashed. Sheena's Aunt Layla told WGN that she hoped Sheena could see the news about her and even had a direct message for her niece. Sheena, we love you. Your family loves you and we want you home. If you can leave any kind of trail so we can find you, we'll try to pick up on it. We just want you home and safe. You are a fighter, so do what you have to do to get us home while we're trying to do what we have to do to get you. Sheena's cousin Chris echoed Aunt Layla's statement, telling ABC7 News Chicago that her family was doing everything they could to stay hopeful. Quote, trying to stay positive as we can, but it's not easy to do on a day-to-day basis. Chris had a message for the community, hoping that someone knew something about where Sheena was. He explained to ABC7 Chicago, I just asked people to think about if this was your loved one, what would you do? You would want somebody to come forward with information, and that's just what we're asking people to do. The same for us. In May of 2022, Chicago's 49th Ward Alderman Maria Haddon acknowledged that there was a vast difference in how missing persons cases were received by the community, specifically referencing Gabby Petito. If you don't remember Gabby Petito, she was a young white woman who was reportedly missing a few months prior to Sheena and was later found deceased. Alderman Haddon explained to the Chicago Sun-Times, it's not that Gabby Petito shouldn't have gotten attention. It's how we raise that level of community care that should captivate a country for every missing person. If you were listening back then, you know that Natalie and I covered Gabby Petito's case. At the time, it really was everywhere, and there was so much information to sift through, we decided to do an episode on it. Full discretion, we had no idea about Sheena Gibbs' case, so what Alderman Haddon is saying here really resonates. We would have loved to have known about Sheena's case at that time, and not more than 2 years later, when we're finally covering it. That same month, an artist named Damon Lamar Reed with the Still Searching Project, along with the help of Alderman Haddon, created a mural of Sheena outside the Glenwood Bar. It was unveiled on May 22, 2022, in a ceremony with Sheena's friends, family, and the community. The large painting depicts Sheena's beautiful face, brightly smiling in hues of pink, green, blue, and orange, with her name on the bottom and the word missing at the top. During the ceremony, the artist explains why he does what he does. Quote, Black women who are missing are underrepresented in the media. Artistically highlighting them, it's a different way. Sometimes we see photos and just kind of go past it. I thought the mural could help to put more eyes on it. The 14th District State Representative Kelly Cassidy echoed Damon's thoughts, saying the traditional methods haven't worked in this case, and they rarely work in these kinds of cases, so we have to think outside the box. We have to invite more viewpoints in to solve these cases. Another of Sheena's aunts described her niece as someone who, quote, meets no strangers. When speaking at the mural ceremony, her aunt, though thankful for the mural and the attention it would bring, also described the entire situation as torment. She said it's unreal right now to see her face on a missing flyer, missing mural. Bishop Travis Grant, the National Field Director for Rainbow Push Coalition, explained to ABC7 Chicago that his organization was helping with the search for Sheena because all missing people deserve recognition and attention. Quote, when we look at the numbers, Black and brown women and children are unserved, overlooked, and ignored. We've got to turn that around, and it starts with Sheena Gibbs. We have any number of stories, particularly from the west to the south side, of young people who are still missing, middle-aged people who are still missing, and an overwhelming number of them are Black and brown women who are heads of households, who are college students, who are entrepreneurs. We're so excited to launch our journal entries series. You can listen ad-free to the journal entries series by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/themurderdiariespod or subscribing on Apple. If you're on Spotify, you can also search The Murder Diaries ad-free and listen there.
So you're probably wondering what journal entries are. And if you've ever had a bestie, you know that you can be on the phone with them forever. Or at least that's how Paige and I's relationship is. We can be on the phone with each other for 45 minutes and not even blink an eye. So that's what these journal entries are. They're going to be things we're reading, watching, and just shooting the shit with each other. That was kind of gross sounding, but... So join us. We can't wait to have you there.
For $2.99, you can join us ad-free. Again, head over to Patreon, search The Murder Diaries ad-free on Spotify, or subscribe on Apple. We'll see you there. Bye.
There's an article written by Jamie Nesbitt Golden. It's called Who Goes Missing in Chicago. It's a 7-part series that summarizes what reporters learned when they investigated the effects on race and sex in missing persons cases. Jamie wrote that the reporters found, while everyone thought more should be done, it still wasn't. Here's an excerpt from the article. What they found were overextended detectives and institutions that aren't quite ready to grapple with the racism and sexism hampering efforts to reunite the missing with their loved ones, or give those loved ones long-awaited closure.
Several months after the mural was created for Sheena, a new lead was discovered. After what seemed like a significant delay, the police traced Sheena's phone. Friends and family suspected that the phone trace may have finally happened because of the attention brought to the case by Alderman Haddon. Regardless of what caused the delay or why the phone ping finally happened, the phone trace revealed that Sheena's phone had pinged in the town of Evanston, which is about 10 minutes from the Greenleaf house. What's also important to note is that the route that would have been taken from the Greenleaf house to Evanston is also a bus route. One of Sheena's friends says that she used to work in Evanston, so she might have been familiar with the bus route and perhaps took the bus. Sheena's phone then pinged again for what was the last time around November 10th. It pinged in a town called Winthrop Harbor in Illinois, near the border of Wisconsin. Winthrop Harbor was just under 60 miles from Chicago. No one who knew Sheena had any ideas as why she would have been in Winthrop Harbor. Though her phone pinging there didn't necessarily mean that Sheena had been there, it did indicate that, at a minimum, her cell phone had been in close proximity. On September 6, 2022, a ground search was conducted in the Winthrop Harbor area. Police and volunteers searched the wooded areas and anywhere they could nearby the area where Sheena's phone had pinged. Police advised searchers that if they found anything that looked remotely like it could belong to a woman, to bring it to one of the scent dogs to smell. Sheena's Aunt Layla, who participated in the search, told WGN Radio that the entire search was heartbreaking. Quote, that was probably the most heart-wrenching thing I've ever done, at least in a long time, to travel to an unknown area I've never heard of or been before, looking for my niece. After about 6 hours, the search culminated at a recycling plant for electronics. Searchers thought that Sheena's phone may have been disposed of, then ended up at the recycling center. Unfortunately, phones were destroyed at the center just after a few days, which meant that if Sheena's phone had been there in November, it was long gone now. Nothing was found during the search that indicated Sheena had been in the area. The trace did tell them that the last time Sheena had utilized her phone was on November 8, 2021, and it was in Chicago to text a friend. Sheena's friends and family created a Facebook page and an Instagram page to share updates and information about her case. One message read, "Our family desperately needs your help. Hopefully the private investigator who is working on this case can uncover some information that the Chicago Police Department has not. We're counting on you to help us get there by your continued contributions. We love Sheena and want her found." Due to her illness, Sheena's mother hasn't been able to participate in the searches for her daughter, but that hasn't stopped her sisters from doing everything they can to give her mother answers. One sister told Local 4 News, "I feel that no parents should ever have to lose their child. The problem is she doesn't know what happened to her child." There are many theories as to what may have happened to Sheena. However, most of them involve the man that Sheena was reportedly dating during the time of her disappearance. The Chicago Police Department has never publicly released any information on who Sheena's boyfriend was. On the Help Find Sheena Gibbs Facebook page, there's a post that someone wrote commenting on how strange it is that it's still unknown who her boyfriend is. One of the page's administrators responded, "It's not a mystery. Police, private investigators, reporters, as well as multiple tips from public have identified abusers from Sheena's recent past. The question remains what police and media have done with those tips. Drop the ball is an understatement." The same admin wrote in another comment implying that Sheena had more than one abuser. Yes, police are fully aware of the identities of Sheena's alleged abusers. Neither abuser has contacted loved ones to assist in any way, as far as I know. Some of Sheena's friends have said that they believe the boyfriend was involved in gang activity, possibly with ties to human trafficking. It was very possible that Sheena may have been a victim of the human trafficking trade. However, there's no concrete information to confirm this. Her friend Lolita told Disappeared that Sheena wouldn't have just left on her own accord. Also said that Sheena's likelihood to face the problems could have resulted in something bad happening to her. Quote, "I actually believe, knowing Sheena, that she could have gotten herself into deep trouble by facing things head on and not running away. However, this doesn't have any effect on the fact that Sheena needs to be found." Lolita told Investigation Discovery, quote, "I want the world to know that Sheena is a great person, independent, and just don't give up on her, please. She is counting on us. I know that she's waiting on us to find her to bring her home." Sheena's missing persons case has since been reclassified as a high-risk missing persons case. Sheena Gibbs is described as a Black woman who stood at 5'9" and 180 pounds with shoulder-length black hair and brown eyes at the time of her disappearance. She was last seen at the intersections of Greenleaf and Sheridan in the Roger Parks neighborhood on the north side of Chicago. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Sheena Gibbs, please contact the Chicago Police Department Area 3 SVU at 312-744-8266 or the Black and Missing Foundation at 877-97-BAMFI.
That's it for this week, but be sure to follow us on socials at the Murder Diaries Pod. We're everywhere. And until next week,
Stay safe.
bye.
Seeking the truth never gets old, even when it hides in the shadows. Immerse yourself in the world of June's Journey, a free-to-play hidden object game set in the roaring 20s. Solve the mystery of the devious gossip spreader and celebrate our 7th anniversary with exclusive events, never-before-seen decorations, thrilling mysteries, and exciting giveaways. The adventure and the gossip awaits. Are you ready for the journey? Download June's Journey today for free on Android or iOS.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.